to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Mr. Incredible joins me today. That's right, Don Ricardo Massenburg Jr. He is the principal of Design Inkredible, located in Durham, North Carolina. Don is known for his use of bright, bold patterns and colors in home decor. His belief is that although interior design is considered a luxury service, he believes it should be and can be attainable by everyone. His love for art, music, furniture, anything bold and creative fuels his passion for interior design. It has long been his dream to do something that he loves and enjoys so much that it doesn't feel like work. And interior design is the answer to this for him. Wait until you learn about his career and work in early childhood education and how he still continues to work in the education field today, running his design firm in conjunction with his full-time position. And just like Erica Ward told us in episode 6, Don says the same. He recognizes the value of his transferable skills that he's gained through his experience in his other career. His firm has grown quickly and it enjoys so much success that it's hard to comprehend that it is technically his side hustle. I think when you hear Don talk, though, you'll begin to understand how he does it. He surrounds himself with good people, with mentors, and he absolutely loves what he does. Importantly, though, Don recognizes that while style and a good design eye are important, it takes much more to maintain a successful career in interior design, and he is always continuing his education. Before we get to the show, please remember while you're preparing your next design project, keep our show sponsor, Article.com, in mind. Maybe you saw or heard about the launch of my new book last weekend, The Things I Learned from a Well-Designed Business. And if you did, maybe you saw that beautiful chair on the cover. That's right, that's the Sven chair in a gorgeous #podcast green velvet fabric. If you are looking for sleek, mid-century, Scandinavian-inspired furniture for your next project, go to welldesigned.article.com and sign up for your trade account today. That's welldesigned.article.com for your trade account. Okay, let me introduce you to Mr. Incredible. Hi, Don. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hey there. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's been a long time coming. It's a full year since we met each other.
Right.
Right? A full year since we met each other. And we're like, you got to be on the show. You're like, all right. And here we are.
Awesome.
That's two busy people for you, Don. That's all I can tell you.
Right.
And the thing is, I knew you were busy because I was following you on Instagram like the other 44,000 people are. And then when I started my research on you, I was like, wait a second. This guy, the design is a side hustle? Like, come on, right?
Right.
Oh, my goodness. So I learned that you have a background in early education and that you actually used to teach pre-K and kindergarten, which is so adorable. I can't even stand it because if you guys haven't met Don yet, what are you, like 6'6" or 6'9"?
6'3".
I have to tell you, I'm surprised at that. I really thought you were like 6'6", 6'9". Like you're like just this huge man.
Wow.
And picturing you teaching little 3 and 4 and 5 years old is hysterically adorable. I can't even stand it. Oh, my goodness.
Fun.
Oh goodness, right? And so this was your early career, and now you actually are still working in education, and you have a different sort of job in education that enables you to do the design work, but it's still that's a full-time job, and the design work is a full-time job. So Don, tell us a little bit about how did you morph into having this amazing interior design firm while doing this career in education?
It was almost like I had to do it. Teaching and being in the classroom, it was fulfilling to a point, but I knew that I had to do something else, for one, to pay the bills, and then also just to have that kind of passion in something that I wasn't getting from being a teacher. I, started using social media and started reaching out to people, and it happened for me. And so working from home for the university has just afforded me the opportunity to be able to, you know, do that job and then really hone my craft for interior design, meet clients, answer calls, and the flexibility has been amazing.
Okay, so now you're not in early education in the classroom. You're working for the university. Sounds
Right.
like as a consultant basis or something like that. But the point of it is that you could work at 9 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock at night.
Right. So flexible, and that's one of the great things about it. It's been awesome to be able to do what I need to do, and then they're not harping on me, hey, where were you? What were you doing? And so it's the only way I would have been able to make it work.
And at this point, you're so successful as a designer. I mean, it's clear your body of work is incredible. Well,
Thank you.
hello, Mr. Incredible. But you must, I mean, I guess, is it from a practical standpoint, or is there just something? I mean, some people have this thing in them, like there's just something maybe in the way you were raised, like have that steady J job, have that steady thing, or do you enjoy it, or are you just like a masochist and you want to work 100 hours a week? Like, what is the deal, Don?
It's really, truly, I feel like a passion for design. Enjoy it so much that I don't feel like I'm working. And I started out saying that, and I still feel that way today. I'm on the installs, and I may be tired, I may be sweating, but I still am enjoying it. And so that's the awesome part about design. It doesn't feel like work.
So doing it around the hours of the full-time job. I mean, a lot of people have have their full-time job and they just can't wait for the day that their firm is busy enough and has a body of work that they can walk away from the full-time job. Do you have a desire to do that, or do you see
Oh,
yourself
for sure.
Oh, okay.
For sure. You've talked to Cheryl Luckett, and
Yes.
I talk to her a lot, and I use her sometimes as a mentor, and I just appreciate her story about, setting that plan, that strategy within the counted, and just saying, hey, I want to be out of here by this time. And then she showed like a video where she walked out of the door of that huge corporate building and clicked her heels, and so I do have that desire, and it's just I feel like it's a blessing now that I'm still able to do both without going crazy.
Okay. Okay.
So
So it's on the horizon, and it's just
right.
has to fit into the overall plan for both personal and business and
For
for
sure.
finances and everything. Okay. Awesome. And yes, I love Cheryl Luckett too. Dwell by Cheryl is her firm.
Yes.
And she is such an incredible mentor to many in the interior design industry. And of course, her mentor is Ruthie Stolson. And so that's just such a terrific story. They were all just
Right.
recently featured in Designers Today, their
Right.
circle of mentorship. Did you see that?
I did, and
Yeah,
it's so
yeah.
awesome just
Ve-
knowing them personally.
Yes, exactly. It's the truth.
Right.
It's a great story, but you're exactly right. When you know them, it's like it just really brings a huge smile. So,
Right.
okay, so here's the thing. So you at some point during your career in education, you decide, I'm going to start to do this thing on the side, and what happens? Do you hang up a shingle? Do you put an ad in the paper? You started with social. How did you start because you do, just like the way you have had questions for Cheryl over the years, there's designers listening that are like, okay, but how did you transition to having clients?
Using social media.
Okay.
So I feel like my first bigger client, they found me via Facebook photo. And I have everything linked. So I start out with a photo on Instagram, and then I use an app, If This Then That, IFTT. And that app will send the Instagram photo to Facebook. It'll send it to Pinterest board, and it'll also send it as a tweet, but it'll send it as an image in the tweet feed rather than a link that you have to click on. And so the photos are just going out to the public, and people are seeing them, and they're contacting me, and it's just been awesome. I started out, there were 770 followers one time. I still have this kind of screenshotted on my iPad, and it was maybe October or so, and I was like, by the end of the year, how can I get to 5,000, or how can I get to this number? And I had a strategy where I would say, okay, I'm going to post every day at peak times. And so, 7:30, 12:30, 8:30. When people wake up, unfortunately, they grab their phones and they scroll through their notifications. At lunchtime, they may grab their phones and scroll, and then while they're on the couch watching Scandal or something, they're on their phones. And so my campaign was I was going to post every day at those peak times. And as I did it, I just got more engagement. And then other Instagram accounts reached out and said, hey, do you want to collaborate? Or the retail brands, I would tag. If I was getting something from some of the wholesale vendors, I would tag them. If I was getting something from Home Goods or other retail places, I would also tag them. And then they started to repost my photos, Z Gallery and Farrah with Inspire Me Home Decor. They would repost, and then thousands of followers came.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it's all organic. I haven't paid for followers or paid for likes or anything like that. And it's just been awesome.
Now, Don, how did you have the content to post 3 times a day? Did you do it 5 days a week, 3 days a week?
Yeah, I'm trying to do it every day. And
7 days a week. What content did you come up with? Was this back in like 2006 or 2012? Like, because I know you had
like
one
2012. And
2012.
so what we would do is, you would photograph a room, and then you would get detail shots. And then I would post a room, then post some of the detail shots with a catchy caption using the hashtags. And then on Thursdays, I would do a throwback Thursday. Hey, remember we did this, 2 months ago or something? And I would bring that back and repost.
I mean, I just can't even fathom. You're talking about 21 pictures a week.
Yep.
And you're a relatively new design firm at this point.
Right.
You're just like, yeah, Lo, that's it. I'm like, wait, but there's got to be more.
It is. And then we did some things like I gathered a group of designers. This was so fun. It was kind of like a feature follow group. And so there were maybe 8 of us. And what we did was I made a list, and I would say, okay, Luann, on this day, you're going to feature a picture from my page and a picture from this person's page. And so basically we were introducing each other to our followers. So I would introduce some of your work to my followers, and if they liked it, they would follow you. And things like that made it work as well. There's so many different strategies for Instagram and social media that can get you where you need without spending money buying followers that don't engage,
Right. And so I've heard of back in the day, like a whole year ago, because that's what social media is, like back in the day.
Right.
I remember back in the day, last year in 2018, Darla Powell, who is the founder of Wingnut Social and also Darla Powell Interiors, right? So she is an interior designer that was particularly successful with social media right out the gate, and ended up being so successful with it and had so many inquiries for help and assistance and yada yada that she founded Wingnut Social with her partner Natalie Graff. And they have an amazing firm now. They have both the design firm and the social media firm, and they specialize in social media specifically for interior designers. So the thing is, I remember a year and a half ago, one of the actionable features, or one of the strategies, I should say, for growing your Instagram was to be in an Instagram pod. And so different from what you just said. So there were 7 or 8 of us in a pod. And we would, each time you would post that to your feed, but then you would post it to your pod in the private DM. And then, we'd all go, oh, okay, so Darla just posted. Okay, so, Jen just posted. So we'd all go over and have to put 4 words or more, right?
Right, yeah.
And the thing is, like, that worked for about 6-7 months. And then Darla was like, this isn't working anymore. The algorithm changed. We've got to move on to something else. And so my question to you is, this feature follow seems more like the Instagram will feel like it's organic, because it did come to pass after several months. It was like, okay, the same 8 of us are on there, same 8, posts. It was like a little awkward, right? So do you feel like, is that something that's still valuable to do? Or do you think that's like, Luann, that's so 2018. It worked for me. It won't work now.
No, I think it still would be an awesome way to grow your account.
Okay.
Just being strategic about who you include in the group. If you're marketing to a certain demographic, then you want to make sure that everybody in the group is going that same direction. You want bigger accounts. And so if it's interior designers that you're looking at, you want to make sure they have big numbers, and that you are not recruiting the same people or people that already follow you. Okay. And so I think today it would still work and still look organic, and not, the comment pod thing. I've been in one of those before. You post 4 words. I love the way this looks. And, it just doesn't seem real, or it seems kind of, cheesy. But I think the feature follow groups were a big part of it, and I think they still work today.
Okay, yeah. I mean, things change. The strategy was awesome, like I said, way back in last year. And so so this, when you say be strategic in who you include in the group, so what are you saying that in order for it to be authentic, like one of your signatures of your interior design, Don, is the use of bold color and rich and stuff, right? And of course, you still design to your client's taste. So when you say be strategic, do you mean that you want to gather others who like color the way you do, or is it like more try and mix it up so that it's like, maybe, color is my thing, but I appreciate the great, light, clean, chic look of this kitchen, or keep it? Is that even something to even consider when you say be strategic?
When I say be strategic, I would say take a look at these people's accounts, take a look at their numbers already, and look at their engagement. Okay. Are people commenting? Are people asking questions? Are people even liking their photos? Are they seeing them? That's one thing. But honestly, I would get in, and I have done it. I have gotten in a feature follow group with people that were more of a farmhouse, kind of shabby chic design. And I feel like it was just transition from their followers always seeing the distressed look and the farmhouse kind of stuff. And so when my photo popped up, everybody was like, wow, look at that blue, let's follow this guy. We want to see colors sometimes, so
So, right. So people can, because that's why I was wondering. It's like if somebody's followers are that rustic farmhouse look, that's such a not much nicer way to say what I was trying to describe, right? But I didn't know if it's like don't introduce something completely different because they won't be interested. But that's not the criteria. That some people have people will be interested, and some will and some won't. But the criteria is to look at their accounts, their numbers, their engagement, and their comments and so forth. So the question is do you need to ask people that you're at 44,000 followers? Do you need to, like, I'm at, 9,000 and like 200, and come on, everybody, let's get to 10 grand. Okay.
I think
chugging along here.
People who, followers is not everything, because your engagement is awesome and everybody knows you. Everybody wants to be on your show. So you would definitely be in my group if I created a new feature follow group.
Okay. So it is that whole thing.
Engagement for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And so you don't necessarily just have to reach for higher. You just reach for people. It sounds like you reach for people that you actually would like to be friends with. I have to say.
and you keep in mind, you're having to repost an image of their work. And so you want to scroll through and make sure there's something that you like,
Okay.
Something that would also appeal to your followers. And I think that's how we created this whole modern farmhouse look. Farmhouse was distressed. Everything was kind of neutral, but now it meets glam, and we have modern farmhouse, and so I feel like people are just looking at the farmhouse stuff, and then they might look at my page or another designer's page and say, wait a minute, why can't we add a little bling or a little glam to the farmhouse? And now, hey, modern farmhouse is a hashtag, and tons of people follow it,
Right. Interesting. That's interesting, that observation. I wonder, it's probably exactly how it happened. Okay. So I like this. This is good. But you know what? You just said a good point there, in that you have to look. I think when I said it, people that you like, that the thing is, that's the whole thing about all social media is to be authentic, right? So if I'm going to feature follow you, I do have to kind of like you and be able to say something genuine about what I'm posting about your work. Otherwise, it's like whatever, right? That you're going to hear if I don't really care about you. So, but it's not just that. It's how does their look, how will it jive with your look? That's a little tougher, right? So, I don't know. I'm thinking out loud because you're like, oh yeah, if I ever did another one, I would invite you. But see, here's my whole thing is all about the show, and the stories features your work. So I would almost have to, you tell me, because you're the IG guru, I would think to myself, if I were going to do a feature follow with a group of designers, I would almost have to say, look, I'd love to do this. I will do all the commenting I can, but I need to do feature follow on just Sunday. And then maybe declare Sunday my feature follow day where I'm engaging and putting up designers' work. Does that make logical sense? Or does it like, no, you'd have to do it every day?
As long as you get it done within that week. I think that's how we did it.
Okay.
But what about your window work stuff?
That's true. Right.
You have that. And
that's the
I'm a drapery guy. I'm a textile guy. And I'm completely cool with, I think what's happened is a lot of my clientele now are new construction, luxury new construction. And so they are contacting me after they've moved in. They've selected their finishes. They've selected the things that they're going to do with the builder. And then they bring me in. And I love textiles so much. I love drapery. I love upholstered furniture, art. I love lighting. And so I'm completely fine with being called a decorator. I'm going to make that term cool again. I love tile. It's beautiful. I love, flooring and all of that stuff, but I'm not having to work with it now, and it doesn't make me scream or holler. So I'm a textile guy. So I would love to see some of your drapery and window work stuff that you guys do. Okay.
So that's such a great, great tip. Thank you. Because I always forget about window works.
Right.
For social, I forget about it. What it is it's just different because Window Works, we're a team. And so sometimes the posts are about Kim's work or Rich's work or JC's work or mine. And so we're all interacting there. And so therefore what'll happen is one of them will nudge me, whether by text or whatever, and be like, Sandra Funk is posting, this is your job, get on there and talk about it. But with Luann, it's me. It's like, I'm there, my brain is always there because I'm talking to you. So that's awesome. Oh, great advice. Okay. Now, so did you hit 5,000 in like 3 months, 4 months?
I think I did,
Pretty
and
close, right?
please keep in mind that it was like you talked about. Was it Darla who kind of it popped off for her immediately? I feel like it was work for me. It took time,
Mm.
but it came faster than I expected it to
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
happen. So
Mm-hmm.
it was work, and but I stuck to it, and so it's been awesome.
Well, and the thing is, for Darla, it was about 7 months. She went from, a couple of hundred to 7,000 followers. I remember that.
Hmm.
That was in 2017. And we talked about it on the show in her episode in 2017. And the thing is, for every one of you, whether it's Darla going from 0 to 7,000, you from 0 to 5,000, you at 44, or even when I talk to Amber Lewis, who's, reaching almost 1 million now, every single one of you has always said it is a lot of work. It
It's a
cannot be
lot of work.
underestimated, right?
Right. So you have to keep in mind people are going to want you to engage back with them.
Mm.
They're going to ask questions and they want you to respond. And so that's the tough part. I post a photo, thousands of likes, but also hundreds of comments. They
Yeah.
want it, and that's one of the kind of the downsides to using social media. I post this beautiful photo of a space and everybody wants to know where you got this from. Where'd you get that from?
Right.
And so if you don't tag the vendor or you don't tag the retailer where you got the pieces, then they're going to want to know. And then sometimes if your clients are following you, they might not want everybody to know where you got the pieces from. And so it can, be a double-edged sword sometimes.
What do you think about that, Don? Because I was just recently at the IWCE in March
Hmm.
of 2019, and that's the International Window Covering Expo. And Lori
Hmm.
Paranjape, Mrs. Paranjape, was the keynote speaker. And she specifically, her topic was Instagram, how that is her primary source of clients at this point in her
Hmm.
career.
Hmm.
And she's got almost like, I think, 80,000 followers on
Wow.
Instagram. Yeah. And she mentioned that same dilemma where
Hmm.
on one hand you're in the beginning, maybe you're trying to attract the attention of the brands, but on the other hand you have clients that are like, I'm sorry. Well, and she said it, she sometimes feels like when people keep saying to her, where'd you get that light, where'd you get that, what's that paint color, she said that she just feels like, somebody paid me for this
For
information.
this information,
Right.
I feel the same way. I feel like she was speaking to me
Mm-hmm.
on that panel.
Yeah.
It happens every time. Sometimes I might share, I'll tag a few things. I love when I'm able to say, hey, these drapery were custom, or the
Mm.
pillows were custom, or this piece was custom upholstered. And so, but the wholesalers now are using Instagram.
Mm.
Um, and they're using Wayfair. And so sometimes it's just tough to not share it. But if you really want to get out there, I started by tagging, Home Goods and At Home and Sherwin-Williams and all of these places that have featured my work because I tag them. And so, I mean,
Okay.
you know,
So there just is I guess it's just the combination of good judgment, right? So
right? Yep.
sometimes you'll tag and say this is Sherwin Williams paint XYZ, and other times maybe you have to understand the client. Or is it maybe, I think Lori's advice might have been there are certain items that if you are a design enthusiast, you probably know the brand, right?
Right.
And so
Right.
maybe I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like part of her advice was, to kind of run that tightrope line is to tag the things that are sort of, they could probably find out on their own if they didn't need, weren't just asking you to tell them, but you have to honor your client who's paid you to create that space, right?
Right. Right.
So hard. So
And
hard.
sometimes sourcing, I mean, it's time consuming. And so you want me to go ahead and tag or link you to this piece that took us,
Yeah.
several hours to find.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
you have to
it's
pick and
crazy.
choose.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember part of her presentation. She said that she was showing a story of an install day at a
Hmm.
project, and so it was, behind the scenes sort of a look, and people were like, "Oh, where'd you get that? And what color is this?" And she said, she looked at all of us and she's like, "My clients haven't even seen it yet. Like,
Right.
I'm not going to start telling you."
That's funny. Right.
So interesting. So, all right. And so, are there other strategies that come to mind before I turn the subject to how you run your firm?
Starting off, high quality photos.
Okay.
And so for me, I started out with iPhone photos or with my own camera. And then when I linked up with a photographer that knew what he was doing, it just changed the game. The photos were brighter, they showed more detail, and that's one thing. Your content needs to be A1, And so I talk about social media a lot of times with other designers, and I say, well, let's just go through and clean your feed up. You've got the dog here, and then you've got 5 photos of interiors, and then you've got your food. And so I say, determine your focus. If it's lifestyle, then you may have some things, the kids, the family, the dog. But if it's going to be interior design, make sure people can see that like in the first 6 photos, because you know how you'll go to an account, people normally will scroll like once or twice, and so those first 6 or 9 photos are what they will see. So you want to make sure when they see that account, they know what you're selling, they know what your theme is, and go from there. High quality, bright photos, and that made a huge difference for me. And then every now and then I can post now an iPhone photo because I have the following and people know what quality I can produce. But yeah, it's a good idea to look for a photographer.
That is, and that's like, it's just get over it. It's an investment. Like you have to, right?
Yep. And I started out, it's funny, I was doing home staging. I do so much. I was doing home staging, and I got in contact with that agent's real estate photographer. And so it's a little bit different, real estate photography, everything they want to look big. And so I kind of had to go on a couple of jobs with the guy and say, hey, I don't need it that wide. I want you to pay attention to some details in what I've done here. And then once I trained him to be now an interior photographer, it really made a difference,
Okay. So, because we have had that discussion on the show where, the real estate photographer is not the one who no, it's a whole different skill set. But what you're saying is you were working with somebody who was willing and interested to understand how it was different and adjust the, for the different projects. That's interesting. And I guess probably easier when you are still at that stage where you're building your business and you necessarily don't have a $60,000 marketing budget that includes $20,000 for photography of the whole year.
Photography, right. And then also, I just knew what I wanted to see. I knew my angles. I thought I was really awesome with my iPhone, and so I was getting the angles I needed. And so I was able to show him like, hey, I just took this photo with my phone. I want you to get that angle, and so he was really teachable. He was allowing me he would take a photo, I could stand back and look at it, and then we would tweak some things, So that was one thing that I feel like that really changed my engagement as well. I started getting on the Explore page. More brands were reposting and featuring my stuff when I started using the higher quality photos. And so that's one definite thing to do.
Okay. I love it. That's awesome. And the thing is that not everybody, not just because you're a designer doesn't mean you know the angles, right? I mean, I've had conversations with Raquel Langworthy and Stephen Carlish and even Charlotte Safafi, who is a photo stylist. And, you happen to have the skill set, but you can't just make the assumption that you're a designer and you see it the way it should be seen in a photograph. And if you need help with that, then you need help with that too. And you really probably shouldn't use a real estate photographer, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and then remember, for social media, it's going in a little square, and most people are looking at it from a little device, know, and so you want to make sure you're capturing something that can be centered in that square and look amazing, so that's one thing.
And now let's talk about how you convert the tire kickers and the admirers of your IG account to clients. So I'm sure with thousands of and hundreds of comments, you probably, I gotta imagine you probably even get on a daily basis several comments that are just like, I'd love to work with you. How does that work? And you're just like, I'm sorry, that's not a grown-up question, right? If you really want to know, do it like a grown-up. Go to my website, get the contact information. But you can't look at somebody and say, that's a dumb question. Take it for real. So how do you weed out the ones that are just being, I don't even know what to call that, just not thinking, to the ones that are potentially serious, and do you have to cultivate all of them to a certain point, Don? What do you do?
So in a note on my phone, I have saved all of my responses. So,
that's so smart.
Right. And so sometimes I get, well, how much is a room like this? Or how much do you charge? Or, we would love to work with you. Or how can I get in contact with you? And so I have responses for those. And most of the time it's just, hey, would love to work with you. Shoot me an email. And so the ones who are serious, I get an email from them. Right. And then, we start the process from there.
Do you do the same thing if they DM you? You have the same thing. You do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so that's one thing. I see a lot of designers say, well, no DM, or we don't respond to DMs. And I'm like, you never know who is direct messaging you. And so I always respond and say, hey, if you want to talk about the process, just shoot me an email. And if they say, well, what's your email? I'm say, hey, in the bio, there's a link that you can click and it'll go right to me. And so, that's one way.
Yeah. I hate, I have to tell you, there are little tiny things that are my pet peeves. And in business all these years, it would be an admin or an assistant that would take a message for me and not include the telephone number, right? That was always my pet peeve. Like one of the first things when I was training you, I was like, please don't ever hand me a message, Pat, without a phone number. And I don't care if you gave the phone number to me the day before. Give it to me every day if every day you're leaving me a message, right? Because I want it right there. I want to walk away with it, make the call in my car, whatever, blah, 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 right? And the funny thing is that admin that would even leave a message for anybody without including the phone number, to me is the equivalent on Instagram is somebody that reaches out by DM and says, hey, love to work with you. How do I get in touch with you? And I'm like, I don't know. That whole big thing in the bio, maybe you could do just a little bit of work here.
But it's the same thing as the work when people ask, where'd you get that ottoman? And I know that I tagged that ottoman. All you have to do is click. And so, it's kind of the nature of the beast with social media.
It's brutal.
We've become so spoiled with everything being handed to us that we can't even just tap a little link.
I know. It makes me crazy. And I have to, because look, a good human being is nice to everybody, no matter what my internal reaction is to the comment. But these are the little pet peevey things that, so I love the idea of having it in the phone saved. It's like, hey, just click my bio. Like, I'm not going to save a conversation with a one-on-one person, but those kinds of things, that's such a great tip, because when you're at your level, when you are getting hundreds and hundreds of comments and probably 200 comments, 50 are the same blasted question, right?
Right. And I get a lot of just questions from up-and-coming designers, aspiring designers, how did you get your start? Or should I take a class? Or what should I do? And so I love responding to that stuff and just, hey, let's set up a phone call if you want. So, every time I post a photo, there are tons of DMs, tons of emails, tons of comments. And so I try to engage when I can,
Wow. Well, you just ruined it now, because now you're really going to get lots of phone calls. How do I do this?
Right. But, that's the thing. Erica Ward, Michelle Boyd, Cheryl, they did the same thing for me.
Yes.
When I reached out to them, I had tons of questions, and they were open with the information. And so I feel like I should pay it forward as well.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, that's terrific. So, I mean, look, it is, it all goes around, comes around. And there's the thing is, and I remember just in Cheryl's first episode when she was on the show the first time, I want to say it was January or February 2017, 2018, because we're in 19 now.
Right.
That was the episode that she talked about how she left her full-time job and went to a turned her design career from a side hustle to a full-time job, and the steps that she took. And she had true steps, as you mentioned, for sitting down and goals that she would meet. And when she met them, she would move on. And the other thing that she talked about was that relationship and that way that you reach out to a colleague that is ahead of the game on you, right? So we call it a colleague, but like you said, there was a time that Erica Ward and these women were further down the path than you. But what she said was that she explained how she respected Rashida Gray from Gray Space Interior Design. When she reached out to her as a stranger, she set up the parameters. She said, I'd like to be able to speak to you once a month, and it'll be 1 hour at this time. I know you have a full-time job. I have a full-time job. We'll do it at a lunch hour. I will prepare the questions ahead of time. You will have them ahead of time. We will stick to the questions that I've got, and we will be done so that you don't, And see, that's not just how do you become an interior designer, right?
Yeah, I need more specifics.
Right. And so the lesson here, if you're listening because I do get people ask me often, how do I get a business mentor? How do I get a design mentor? And that is the answer, is to really be very clear in what you're asking. Let the person understand that you respect their time, their energy, what they've put into their career, and that they are still working in their career as well. And time is limited. But it's to her, the one really wonderful thing that Rashida did that I just was like, oh, that's amazing, was that she said she would, and she did provide the content for the conversation each week, as opposed to, so hello, you know what I mean? And that is the way to make an impression on a colleague in the industry, and to possibly get them to accept you as someone that they would help, right? You agree with that?
Yeah. I do.
Yeah, awesome. And it is true, because so many of us have been helped by others ahead of us. And so we are happy to help when it went the other way, but don't make us crazy. That's all.
Right.
So let's talk about this. You are actually accomplishing quite a bit of work. Now we understand that you not only have this amazing firm, but you also have a full-time job. And I understand that you don't have a whole staff, that it's really you, and you utilize some of your family members that have skill sets. But tell us, how the heck do you get this done?
So, like you said, it's me. I try to do all the emails and phone calls and paperwork. I have a drapery guy that is awesome, that helps me on install days. And then I use my mother, my uncle, and my electrician. I just love incorporating family. But I also have started to use my Doma studio.
Oh, now we're getting somewhere. Okay.
Right. So it has just made things so much easier.
Really?
For me. I was, printing out contracts and driving them over with the client. We were sitting down, and then sometimes I would be on the way and they would say, well, we can't do it today. Can you switch it? And I'm like, oh, no, I'm not able to do this. And so it has allowed me to be able to go virtual with a lot of my paperwork.
Let me ask you a couple questions about that. So that's interesting. So first of all, yay, love that you love my Doma. I didn't expect that answer, but I'm happy to have it. So let me just, before we get a little bit further into the other ways that you're using my Doma Studio, it's funny because I recently had a conversation with somebody, I can't recall who it is, that was very you really, really should make it a practice to go over your letter of agreement in person. And so I can hear that that was your practice, and I can hear that sometimes it's not possible, that they cancel on you, and you still, they might say to you, send it to me or whatever. Have you switched it entirely, or is it just for the use of that time when you can't hook up with the client, or the client is just insisting on it all being through the virtual?
It's client's preference. So for me, I feel like interior design is personal. I love going in the home again, and I might need to grab another measurement or something.
Yes.
So we go over with the contract. I love sitting down, going through it with them line for line, putting the pen in their hand where they sign. But recently, I've had a lot of women on the go. I'm traveling all the time, Ricardo, and is there any way you can send this virtually? And so I was using DocuSign or Adobe Sign for a while. And then when I got my Doma, changed my life. So
wow.
And so I haven't been using my Doma long. Last market, we were doing a kind of a networking thing with the Black Interior Designers Network, and I got in front of another designer, Arian, with dressing room interiors, and I asked her, what do you use? And we talked a little bit about, using the Google Calendar instead of your regular calendar. And then she was like, oh, I use my Doma. And she was like, changed my life, Ricardo. And so I jotted that down. And so I was, going to go between another software and my Doma. And so when I set up the demo with my Doma, where they kind of take over your screen and you guys go over what it does for you, I put in the subject line of what I wanted it to do for me, I put, I need my Doma to change my life. And so they thought it was so funny. And so I really feel like it's changing my life. Everything is there. I have brought on a designer in Charlotte to take on some projects of mine so that I can increase what we're doing, and we are able to communicate in my Doma together, and we're also able to communicate with the clients that we're using. And so she's in Charlotte, I'm here in Durham. The client that we're working with now is in Florida, and we're all able to communicate. Their pictures there, the measurements are there. They can sign the contract, sign the proposals. They can choose or sign off on products, and then they can pay right there. And so it's just been awesome.
I love it. I have to say, I say it all the time, all week, but it's different coming from somebody who's using it and it changed their life. And I feel like sometimes, it's so funny because when I'm talking with designers at live events and coaching them and so forth, on one-on-one or whatever it might be, or even the masterminds that I've run, one of the things that people ask me over and over, I just can't seem to get organized. I just can't seem to get everything in one spot. And honestly, like, I'm at the point now where I'm like, I'm sorry. Have you ever heard of me mention my Doma studio? I mean, I'm just saying.
Like,
you know what I mean? And the thing is, I am at bated breath waiting for one of the many interior designers that we work with at Window Works to adopt my Doma studio, because I cannot wait to be a vendor in it. This is why I fell in love with it. Like that whole level of communication that you were just talking about, that you have with your client in Florida, and you have the designer that's helping you in North Carolina. It's like you're all right there in the same project. And I'm going to beat a dead horse, because this is what I always say. Yes, you can say to me, well, you could all email too. But then I've got to do the email search for the conversation about how high was I supposed to make your headboard in the master bedroom, as opposed to just going into the project for the master bedroom. And there's the conversation with you and with the designer. And here I am as the vendor that's making your headboard, right?
Exactly. Yep.
I don't know. It's not rocket science, but my goodness.
It's awesome. And then they are, there's a chat bubble there, and they respond all the time. And if you need little tweaks like, hey, I need to be able to do this, they update it all the time. And then they have a Facebook group where other designers are in there. They're like, well, how do you do this? Or how do you add this? And so it's just been awesome, the support that they offer with it. So yeah,
I think it's awesome. And I had no idea you were going to say that. And I think it's so important to understand that, here you are, you're a solo entrepreneur. You have a 40-hour a week career job and you don't have any full-time employees. When you guys go and look at his website, at what he does and his Instagram, and understand that one of the ways that he's able to manage and do this is the organization that comes from using the MyDoma Studio platform. It's remarkable. Now, I'm sure you're going to need to grow. Don't you feel like you're going to end up hiring employees?
Oh, for sure.
Right. Yes.
Definitely.
Right.
I've been filtering through some resumes and things for a couple interns and design assistants and things like that. And so it's coming very soon. I started out the year saying, okay, I'm only going to take on this many large scale projects and this many, smaller projects. And then once I started using MyDoma and knowing what it could do for me, I'm able to go up from those numbers that I initially projected.
Oh.
So it's been awesome. Yep.
So that's another added benefit, that you're
Right.
able to manage more projects at one time and not feel like the balls are dropping, right? Like we all hate that feeling that you've got so many balls in the air and you're starting to see them drop around you and you're like, uh-oh, like this is not good.
Right.
Right? That's a really, pit in your stomach feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So that's awesome. I love it. So MyDoma Studio changed your life. Yay.
Right.
So knowing that you're able to take on more projects, knowing that you are in the horizon, probably in 2019, it sounds like you're going to put on at least one staff member. What
Right.
other things are you looking ahead towards, Don, that you're wanting to do?
I think in the future, I would really love to get back into doing the upholstery. I made headboards, and I would love to see those come out. I would love a product line of some of my headboards. The Ricardo headboard is one. And so, it's all, when I first started, I was doing upholstery, I was doing drapery and sewing, and that I felt like was one of the goals. And then once, the interior design portion started taking off, it kind of was in the back of my mind or on the back burner a little bit, but I see that desire for that to come up again now.
So, and I had actually forgotten to mention that, but I did read that on your website that you actually do sew.
Yeah, so these big fingers, can thread a needle well.
Oh my God, you're like a Renaissance man.
So I was a one-stop shop is how I started out. I was doing the drapery myself. I was making the cornice treatments. I was doing the headboards. I do abstract art. And so I really wanted a lot of the pieces that people saw to be custom, to be my own. And so they couldn't look at it and say, oh, I saw that here, or I saw that at Target, So it was just wanting everything to be custom is how I started. And I've done so much. I still have home staging inventory. It's just a lot. I really have touched kind of a lot of the aspects of the business. And so I feel like if my drapery installer can't make it, I'm fine to get up there and do it. Or if the electrician can't do a small chandelier, I'm able to get up there and do it. And so it has just really made me appreciate their time and what they do because I know how to do it. I've worked with a few designers who have never done their own installs. And so when the art installer couldn't come, they were there with the client saying, hey, we got to reschedule this and it's going to be another full day install. And that, that can be tough. So
interesting. So I have two
questions. Mr. Incredible.
That's right. I mean, you have obviously thus the name. I'm just surprised it's not Mr. Renaissance Incredible Man. Like, it's crazy. You're like really, truly multi-talented. It's amazing. I have a question for you, though. You said that you still have your home staging inventory. If I only read all of this, in other words, I don't mean on your website, because on your website, it tells me that you are organized and have it together. But if somebody said to me, oh, there's this guy, he has a full-time job in education. He does interior design. He, has this massive social media following that he has to keep up with every day. He does home staging and owns an inventory of home staging. He actually sews and makes draperies and can make headboards. And, he's a one-man show, la, la, la. I'd be like, is this man doing any of this effectively? That's what I would say on the outside. I'd be like, okay. And I would also say, where is the train going? Is there a direction, or is this man intending to build out his team so that he can always pursue all of these avenues? So what do you think is it for you, Don? Do you see building out the team? Because if the larger you get, like you just said, I would love to get back into making the headboards and have a headboard line, right? So does that mean I actually want to be the one to build them, or I'd like somebody to be out there, a brand, to the way Cheryl has her line with Sylvester Alexander? Is that what it is?
Oh yeah, I would love it to be a brand. And so I don't know if I said this, but I used to install the drapery. I used to do the sewing. Right. And so I'm at a point now where I've hired somebody else to do it.
Right.
And so that's awesome. And so, yeah, I don't want to make them anymore.
Okay. So you want to design them.
I still enjoy it, but I don't have time to make them anymore. And so I'm at a place where I feel like I would love for them to be manufactured somewhere, and it's my design, and
Right. Okay, so that's okay. And because I have to say, it actually sounded like you were pining to be back with your hands making it. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, how are you going to do that? So, and it is Sylvester Alexander that Dwell by Cheryl Luckett has her line with. So I just want to make sure I make that note clearly. Okay, so cool. I mean, you are just something else. And you know what? You have to do me a favor because I've been calling you Don the whole time. And you have said a couple of times, and a designer will say Ricardo this or Ricardo that. They're going to think I don't know your name. They're going to actually think that. And so you don't have to go through the whole big from when you were born, but tell them why I'm calling you Don and other people know you as Ricardo.
My name is Don Ricardo Massenburg Jr.
That's it.
And I was named after my father. And so on social media, I decided to use my middle name, which is Ricardo, and that's how some people know me as Ricardo and others know me as Don.
All right. I just have to make sure that everybody's like, what the heck is that lady doing for 45 minutes calling her guest the wrong name? Your mama calls you Don, right?
Right.
That's it. So that's the name I went with.
Yeah, if you look me up on Facebook, they won't let me change anything, so I'm going to be Ricardo Martinez for a while.
That's a whole other can of worms, Don.
Right.
Right. So here's the thing. Look for Mr. Incredible with a K, and you'll find Don Ricardo Martinez Massenburg Jr. Which Martinez isn't really a real name in there. It's just...
Not at all.
Oh my goodness, you're awesome. I just adore you. You have a great energy, Don. You really do. I told you I was at High Point Spring and saw you. And saw you talking.
Almost met, right?
Yes, right. And I saw you talking with a group of designers. I was at Left Bank party, and you just have an energy that attracts. It attracted me. I just thought you just had such a warm, open aura about you is all I can describe. Friendly. And, I kind of was trying to say hello and this and that. And then I was like, all right, the man's got groupies. I'm never getting over there. And so then I reached out over, email and stuff. And then we met met officially in October. And so finally here we are, but I'm grateful to know you. You're a great guy.
Remember that? We took that awesome photo. I think, did I have my tongue out or you had yours out?
No. All I know is I was standing on a chair.
Right, and I was still taller.
That's it. I know, like 7'5" at least. Oh my goodness. So I will see you in High Point 2019. You are going to take over the Instagram for High Point Market on Monday, April 8th, 2019. But I'll see you in real life there. So I'm looking forward to it. Thanks so much for being on the show, Don.
Thank you.
So tons of great tips about Instagram, right? How about that dedication? 7 days a week, 3 times a day, 7:30 a.m., 12:30 p.m., 8:30 p.m. That's the thing. That's what it takes, though. I'm telling you, for sure. I've talked with many like Don who have cracked that Instagram code and built a 40-plus following or larger. I mentioned Amber Lewis. If you haven't heard her episode, you need to, especially if your IG following is not what you want it to be and you think you've actually been working hard on it, right? That's the thing. When you listen to Amber talk about how she built it, you'll probably think, yeah, not working quite that hard, right? But if you are interested in growing your Instagram account, in addition to the tips that Don shared, please check out Amber's show. Then also check out the episode with Mark McDonough and with Darla Powell, okay? All of these episodes will be in the show notes, and you can always find them on my website, LuannNigara.com. And of course, you should join both Mark and Darla's Facebook groups and listen to their podcasts, okay? All of this will be in the show notes. Speaking of Instagram, are you following me on Instagram? I hope you are. I'm at Luann Nigara, okay? Now, let's talk about High Point for a minute, shall we? Are you going? It's this weekend, and I hope that if you're going, that you will kick your High Point experience off with me at the High Point Market Theater at 12 o'clock on Saturday, April 6th, 2019. I will be kicking you in the butt a little bit. I mean, no. I mean, I'll be giving you a little presentation on strategies for running your firm profitably. I mean, that's all right? No. So after that, at about 1 o'clock, after our little chat, we're going to have 4 of my co-authors join me, Michelle Williams, Nicole Heimer, Nancy Ganzikaufer, and Sarah Daniele. And we'll have copies of our book for sale, and we'll all be there until 2 o'clock to sign them. And also, we'll get a chance to meet you. So please stop by, okay? Then on Sunday morning, I will be at Surya at 9:30 in the morning with Christopher Grubb of Arch Interiors, Sandra Funk of House of Funk, Laura Umansky of Laura U. We are going to talk about the good, the bad, and the wonderful of running a firm of 10, 12 to 14 people and how to scale to that level, okay? So if you've got a firm 3, 4, 5, and you're thinking, how do I get to 10, 12, 14? What do I have to be thinking about? What do I have to look out for? And what do I have to have in place, okay? So if you have dreams of running an empire someday, please don't miss this panel discussion. We'll also have a book signing after this as well. And you know that Surya always puts out a nice lunch. So you can be with us from like 9:30 to 11 and then hang out for the lunch with them, okay? Alrighty, I think that's it for today. I'm done, and I think you might not be done yet because you probably have to think about what your decision is today, right? Have you decided on that one thing that you will do today to make a difference in your business? Okay? You have to decide. You have to decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.